1944. In 1964, the San Francisco Giants beat the New York Mets 8-6 in 23 innings, which was the second game of a doubleheader, and lasted 7 hours and 32 minutes. In 1967, French Championships men's tennis, Roy Emerson beat fellow Australian Tony Roche for his 12th and final Grand Slam title. In 1972, French Open women's tennis, American icon Billie Jean King wins her only French singles title, beating Yvonne Goolagong of Australia. And in 1985, the New Orleans Saints were sold for just over $70 million. The Saints are now worth over $2.2 billion. That's this week in sports history. I'm JP.
Football season never ends on Talk Football with Coach K.
Stidham is tearing it up at New England. He may well be the incumbent to Tom Brady there.
Former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Coach K brings his expertise as he breaks down the game, the players, the coaches, and the front office. Plus, high-profile interviews from the biggest names in football. Talk Football with Coach K every weekday from noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
I thought I was too old.
I thought I was too young.
I didn't think I had what it takes.
How'd I find the time?
I went into a music store and tried some percussion.
Keyboard, guitar,
bass.
ukulele.
And before I knew it,
I could actually play a song.
why make excuses when you can make music?
Just play.
This message brought to you by the NAM Foundation.
For your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts, I'm JP. Hockey legend Gordie Howe suffers from cryophobia, the extreme fear of cold and ice. That's what I call facing your fears. The grass at Wimbledon was kept 2 inches long until 1949 when an English player was bitten by a snake. And a man in Mississippi was briefly imprisoned for sorcery in 1884 after throwing a curveball at a county fair. So that means Clayton Kershaw would have been a wizard, right? That's your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts. I'm JP.
This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gulick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEVY, Milton, Pensacola.
The following has been produced by Talk Football LLC. Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome in to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach K. Stevenson on this Monday afternoon. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope you're doing well today as well, whether you're at work or at home doing some yard work. Whatever you're doing, we appreciate you tuning in with us here. Of course, we hope that you're practicing social distancing as we move along in this time right now. But regardless, listen, before we get started, as we always have, and we'll continue to do this, we want to thank our first responders and healthcare workers at this time. Look, we thank you so much for everything you do for us. I know with everything going on right now in our country, it's a little crazy, but we do want to send a shout out to those. We appreciate you, being there for us, especially during COVID-19 and what's been going on. The grateful support, has been fantastic. Like I said, I have family and friends that are a part of all these and just very gracious for what they do. But really, it's the stories about you in the community, how you support them as well. We just thank you so much. It goes without saying. And we also want to thank, our essential employees out there, grocery store employees, truck drivers. Listen, if you've been a restaurant that's been open during this time, we thank you for that. Very appreciative. It's important at a time like now where normal is not a word that we may use for quite a while to give us a little bit of normalcy in this. But we just want to thank you so much. And look, we have a ton to talk about today. And Coach, I know you feel the same way about all this, but how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. I certainly feel the same way. As I've stated before, we could spend the hour really thanking those people that have done so much for us. And we do send that out every day, and hopefully they will enjoy the time that they spend with us here, getting away from it a little bit, maybe.
Absolutely. And we're here to talk some football with you. And look, we have a ton to talk about. Coach, I want to start off here. Of course, the NCAA, and the reason I bring this up is because some teams have already started to head towards campus. Now, a lot of people saying, well, wait a minute, you can't do that yet. Well, the NCAA said June 1st, which is, hey, how about it? June 1st. It seems like this year is moving right along. But some teams can return back to campus. Now, a lot of teams have already started to head that way. We know the University of Florida said May 26th. Last week, of course, they were going to start bringing players in to test them, give them physicals, things like that. So they're not officially there, but they're going to start moving, phasing guys in. We've seen a lot of universities do this. North Carolina is going to phase all their players in a 4-week period. We've seen Iowa State's going to do something like that. Louisville's doing something like that. Interesting to see. Coach, the reason I bring that up is because we're moving forward to some normalcy in this. And, look, it's not a matter, I think, as are we going to have. Now, of course, anything can happen, but it's not really as much as a matter of are we going to have college football or NFL football. It's a matter now as are we going to have fans. So when we look at this, we are seeing, look, some people are planning on having full stadiums. Some are saying, you know what, we're going to start off with half or whatever it may be. The reason I bring this up, Coach, is because, look, it costs you nothing to be positive in this time. And things were bleak for a while. We had Paul Feinbaum on the show last week, and he believes that we're going to have football. He said that's not really an issue right now. Coach, have you heard anything else on the aspect of maybe fans in college or fans in the NFL moving forward? Any plans in place or anything else going on?
Well, as I've said, the planning in the NFL has been easier because there are less contingencies that have to be factored in. And they have looked at virtually every possibility, from no fans in the stadium to a certain percentage, a third, up to a half, gradually getting more and more in there. Use of the private boxes. There's just any number of possibilities they've looked at. Now, everybody is looking at moving ahead at the normal time with full stadiums. You have to plan that, or what happens if you plan nobody in the stadium and all of a sudden you are allowed to have people in the stadium. You can't tell them they can't come, and you're not prepared for it. So you got to be prepared for that, and they should be, optimistically or otherwise. Just proper planning would force you to have that contingency. And believe me, the NFL is looking at every different possibility you can think of. Different start times they've looked at. I know I've said before on this show, they've looked at everything from a normal start time in September, around September the 3rd, 4th, whatever, to October start time to November start time. So they factored all these things in, and they have a plan should it come down to that. Now, it looks as though we're going to be able to start pretty much on time. I don't think that anybody should think that because they say kids can come back to campus at a certain time in June, or that players can report to the NFL in June, does not mean that they're going to be in the training camps. I think that really the normal time frames for things happening in the NFL are pretty much on track now. They didn't go to camp until late July anyway, mid to late July. So that's the plan now, and that hasn't changed. So anyway, I think all that's been looked at, and contingency plans are in place, JP. So whatever happens, I think they'll be prepared for it.
I agree, Coach. I think, like I said, it costs you nothing to be positive, and all the signs we're getting right now are positive signs. It's, you know what, I've said from the beginning, I didn't think we were going to have fans in the beginning, but we may have some. We'll see. I think at this point, once again, like we've said before, it doesn't matter at this point. Listen, well, I'm lucky. I'm just happy that, Coach, I don't have to be in those boardrooms and make those decisions on the fans and everything else. But the good thing here is that players, of course, are starting to ease back, especially for college, because we knew in the NFL, Coach, you had said it from the beginning, it was going to be a little bit easier moving forward. And, of course, we had Jim Haslett on the show Friday. Good to hear from him and what they're doing there. And a lot of interesting aspects there, especially with the virtual side of things. It actually has kind of worked a little bit for some of these guys. But, look, it's good news, and that's what we're going to leave it as. And, Coach, talking about good news here for the Georgia Bulldogs, listen, they got the addition of USC transfer J.T. Daniels. We talked about that last week. And a lot of people, there's been a lot of speculation because that is an extremely talented room now. When you look at Daniels, who is a former 5-star pro-style prospect, DeJuan Mathis, who is a 4-star pro-style prospect, and Carson Beck is another 4-star. And then you add Brock Vandegrift, who, remember, he was the one, after Jamie Newman leaves this year, when they got him for the 2021 commitment, everybody said, that's our guy. That's our next quarterback. This guy is the next Jake Fromm, and maybe even better moving forward. That's the comparisons you get with him. A lot of people thought, okay, well, you know what? He may flip now. He may flip his commitment. He may go somewhere else just because there's so much talent in that room there. He's probably not going to want to compete. And with that being said, we saw Justin Fields and Jacob Eason, guys like that with Jake Fromm, transfer out. A lot of people were thinking along the lines of Vandegrift's gone. What are we doing here? This guy's the real deal. Well, look, Brock Vandegrift's dad wanted to come out, and he wanted to make a statement here. And he said, look, it's not that you value competition, but you embrace competition. If you are an athlete and you want to be a starter, you have to compete. When you choose a university, you choose everything that goes along with that university, from transfer players to players that are already there to changing coaches. You just embrace it. You compete, go out there, and do the best you can. Now, of course, Brock Vandegrift, he seconds all this going along and talking, but his dad comes out and says as well, look, it wasn't like we were trying to go to Southeast Missouri or UTEP. We were choosing among the best programs in the country, and you were going to play against the best. That's just part of it. Coach, the reason I bring this up is, look, it's great news for Georgia Bulldog fans. I have plenty of friends that are Bulldog fans out there. But when you look at this is not the norm. I mean, you almost applaud him because you're like, look, he's not running away from it. We'll see. Now, I know there's still time. But from right now, coming out and making this statement, I think is huge. I think it's important because too many guys run away from competition. And look, I'm not going to say what's best for anybody, but it's rare we see a guy say, you know what? I embrace this. I'm ready to compete. I'm going to go out there and compete my butt off, and I'm going to try to get that starting job. I just think it's almost like a fresh breath of air at this time, Coach.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think it's the right way to approach it. As you're right. Not many people do. Many people would shy away from that and look for an easier route to take. But he's going to meet it head on and go in there. He's obviously got a tremendous amount of confidence in his ability, and he has to be a competitor as well. So those two things on the intangible side, you would have to mark up as pluses right off the bat, which are two major pluses you have to have for a quarterback. So I would say those coaches that are looking at that approach to the position would say, hey, this guy's on the track to have all the intangibles marked in his favor. So anyway, I think it's very positive, very positive. Now they do have what looks to be a very talented quarterback room. I don't know about the kid that transferred from Wake Forest. I don't know whether he's a legitimate big-time major college quarterback or not. I really don't know. I have not really seen him play to the extent that I could make any judgment there. Some people seem to think he's a pretty good quarterback. I would have to say off the top, if I'm just evaluating everything in Georgia, would I rather have Fromm back for another year or have this guy transfer in? I'd rather have Fromm back for another year. So that would end that. Now, J.T. Daniels, I know we've heard a lot about him at Southern Cal going back a number of years. I know he's a very talented young man, and I think will be an asset. Would be an asset to anybody's quarterback room. But you know, I don't know. I don't know whether he's the first team All-American that people talk about or not. I just don't know. So it looks as though they've got a good quarterback room. I think this kid coming in is really showing something very, very positive, and don't count him out. He may be the guy.
Yeah, he brings a mentality just with not even being on campus yet that you got to love if you're Kirby Smart and that staff. And, Coach, we still got other guys like we didn't even mention Stetson Bennett, a guy that came in last year and just in garbage time and completed it was like 70% of passes there. And, look, this is if you're a Bulldog fan, perfect storm of what you got going on here. We're seeing something similar to this at Alabama, except Alabama doesn't have as many quarterbacks in their room now. Now that we'll see what happens. I'm sure some guys may want to leave and try to go get their opportunities, but every quarterback that's in that room right now, just from what we've seen, is really talented. That's the thing in all this. And when you look at Alabama, Talia Tagovailoa leaving, a lot of people were like, he's an okay quarterback, but I don't know if he's going to lead this team. All these guys, DeJuan Mathis and those guys, they are the real deal. But going to be interesting. Listen, if you're a Georgia fan, like I said, you got to be excited with not just this year. And I agree with you, Coach. I think, look, a lot of people, we understand watching Jamie Newman at Wake Forest. He didn't have the weapons, but everything is going to speed up too. And look, it's the ACC, and I understand they played Clemson. When they played Clemson, they didn't do so well, but he was also missing some more of his guys. But regardless, every week is going to be faster in the SEC. It's that much better. There's no off weeks when you really, even when you're playing teams like Kentucky, which are considered some of the lower tier teams. Those teams are teams that go to bowl games. They're real deal, and they can beat you at any moment. And especially with the offseason that these SEC teams have had, it makes it that much tougher. And now, not only just playing in the SEC, Coach, but now you have the pressure of being almost the savior to this Georgia football team to bring them over the hump, to take them to the next level, to take on the Alabamas, to take on the Floridas. Now, not just are you playing in the SEC, but you have immense pressure that you did not have. Let's be honest, you did not have when you were at Wake Forest. So that's another thing. That's another aspect of what we're going to see out of Jamie Newman. And look, watching film, he looks good, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll just pump the brakes and we'll see what happens. Regardless if you're a Georgia fan, you got a lot of great options at the position. Coach, speaking of a team that upgraded this offseason, we heard that they were the national champions of the transfer portal, the Florida Gators. Now, we got news, of course, Lorenzo Lingard, formerly of the Miami Hurricanes. Now, this is a guy that was a 5-star running back out of Orange City, Florida right there. One of the top prospects. A lot of people were surprised he went to the Hurricanes. Of course, he had an injury, but regardless, listen, this is a guy that got immediate eligibility at the University of Florida this year. And why is that important? Well, listen, Michael P. Ryan's gone, and this is a guy that was a 4-year starter at the position. They weren't necessarily able to effectively run the ball as much last year. But, I think that this is where that team's going with Kyle Trask as well. I think it'll be a lot better. Now, Lingard at Miami had 17 carries for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns in his short time that he played before he got injured, and then he redshirted. This is a team, Coach, when you look at the Florida Gators, we've talked about them. I still am going to stick with this is the Florida Gators' year. I think they will overtake and take back the East just because of everything with the continuity going on and with COVID-19. I think this is a team, regardless of all that, is poised just to make a step forward. And there's so many questions at Georgia, and where Florida, I think they're just ready to roll at this point, and they're just getting that much better. And there again, I have a ton of faith in Kyle Trask. But when you look at Lingard, adding him to the depth at this running back position, they already have junior running back Dameon Pierce. They have a bunch of guys there. Coach, this is just icing on the cake at this point for Florida. I really think that, this is a guy that's versatile. This is a guy, once again, you talk about adding depth at a position at running back, which every level of football you got to have depth at that position. This is a home run for him.
Oh, I think so too. I think it's a tremendous pickup for Florida, and you're right. You really need a lot of depth at that running back position. Because of the attrition there, which normally happens, even if it's not something serious, but just a pulled ankle, a turned ankle or a pulled muscle can really slow a back down for a couple of weeks. And you've got to have other people who can come in and play full speed. I don't know of any major college team in the country that doesn't have at least 3 backs they feel they can play in a ball game and feel good about. Now, there may be some that only feel good about 2, but I'll promise you most of them have 3, some have 4, that they can play at any time. So this is a big pickup for Florida, and I think it'll be a big boost for them.
Yeah, once again, if you're a Florida fan, you got to be excited. We just talked about, of course, Georgia, the great opportunities there. This is going to be an interesting East matchup this year. These two teams have already been so much fun to watch each and every year. Now it just gets that much better. Look, a lot of excitement there. But listen, we got to go to a break. Coach, when we come back, we're going to talk about some interesting quarterbacks in the NFL. One in Carson Wentz, who a lot of people kind of doubt his ability. But I'm going to bring up a couple things that may surprise you a little bit about him. And are we overhyping the Bucs and Tom Brady this year? A lot of talk about him. Look, there's a lot of people that are naysaying about this team. We'll get your take on that, Coach. And also, the NFL, the top receiving corps, we've got them ranked for you. All that and more when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
Hurricane season is upon us, and although we aim to bring you the latest news in sports, we're committed to bringing the Pensacola community the latest updates and information during the 2020 hurricane season. In collaboration with our sister stations, News Radio 92.3, AM 1620, and Cat Country 98.7, stay up to date with breaking weather news and updates on the biggest storms impacting Northwest Florida by checking our Facebook pages at Cat Country 98.7, News Radio 92.3, and ESPN Pensacola.
What's up, Chad here from the Sports Drive. Well, no sports to talk about. March Madness canceled, every major sport, so maybe you get to spend some more time around your family. Oh, what? Not supposed to touch anybody? Well, just go home and watch Price is Right. But if you are older, you have a better chance of getting it. Right, Mike Gundy? Oh, 40? You should be all right. And he won't be broadcasting sports, but one guy that feels the same way we all do with no sports, probably Joe Buck.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
Sports Drive 5 to 7 with no sports.
There's only one name in town when it comes to afternoon local sports talk, the Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante.
Some athletes don't want to be given, nobody does. No, look, when you play with your pops as it gets older, one of the most embarrassing things, my daughter's 3, I just slam it right in her face right at the play school hoop. Like right there, like I'm Zion Williamson.
The games, the players, the fans. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You can watch Coach K talk football live right now on our YouTube channel at ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you, alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson. On this Monday afternoon, hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. We're talking some football with you. And, Coach, I want to get into this. Now, a couple quarterbacks here. Carson Wentz, we'll start off with him. This is a guy, listen, for the Philadelphia Eagles that last year the division was atrocious. Looks like the Cowboys are on their way back up. We've talked about the Cowboys quite a bit. Regardless of whatever happens in the quarterback position there, whether it's Andy Dalton or Dak Prescott, this is a good Dallas Cowboys squad, especially on the offensive side of the football. When we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, not a lot gets said about the offense. And listen, rightfully so with the injuries they had last year. But, we always talk about that defense, how nasty and physical they are, and it keeps them in ball games. I wanted to bring this up because hearing, I read a lot of message boards, which is probably not a good idea, but to get a feeling about how people feel about certain players. I read all these articles and stuff, and look, I'm a big Carson Wentz fan. Watching him in college at North Dakota State, I thought it was awesome. Just a different type of player, and a guy that didn't get a whole lot of respect coming in. He's a guy that's can do a little bit of everything. We saw that, and we saw him start to lead a team where Nick Foles had to step in after injury there. But this team was on a roll when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. And, Coach, I want to make a couple things clear on this just before we get into the Eagles as a whole here. Carson Wentz threw for over 4,000 yards last year and did not have one wide receiver reach 500 yards. Now, you look and he had Zach Ertz, who had about 900 yards, but Zach Ertz had that many yards because, remember, they were catching the wide receiving core was basically Greg Ward Jr., who was a former college quarterback, Boston Scott, who was a running back, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who was a guy that really should have been on a practice squad, but he wasn't because of injuries to Deshaun Jackson. Of course, Alshon Jeffrey was out for a little while. Nelson Aguilar, he had his problems. But this is a team that when you look at it, thank goodness for guys like Miles Sanders stepping up, who I believe, I've already said, will be a great young back. But, Coach, Carson Wentz, this is a guy, if you go back and you look at his stats, just for people that want to naysay him all the time, last year, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The year before that, of course, he had some injury problems, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The year in 2017, we know that year, 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And then his first year in the league, he struggled with about 16 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, easing into the league there, a different style team. Remember, but you see the progression there with him. Coach, when you look at this last year, I just go back to he had his most career yards last year, throwing for over 4,000 yards, and threw 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and didn't have a wide receiver healthy on the roster for over half the season. I just think that Carson Wentz is one of these guys, Coach, that if I know it all comes down to health and the health of their team, but this guy is the real deal, and those stats prove it.
Oh, I like him. I would agree. We couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I've liked him since the time he came in, even going back to his workouts in Indianapolis at the Combine. The kid's got a good arm, a very good arm. He's a good athlete to boot. He's got all the intangible boxes checked and double checked. He makes things happen when other quarterbacks couldn't make them happen. I think he's a great competitor. And like you said, just like Aaron Rodgers and like Tom Brady, he was just devoid of a quality receiving core. In fact, it was down to basically one legitimate NFL receiver. So they've helped themselves there now. They should be back to near full strength, depending on the injury, what happens. He's been unfortunate, Wentz, in that he's been injured twice. And it's a shame he couldn't have finished out the year that he was going to win the MVP and right on through the Super Bowl. But it didn't happen. But he's the reason they were there in that position. He's a fine young quarterback. I like this Philadelphia team, JP. I think they've got a legitimate, I say legitimate meaning better than average offensive front. I agree. I like the running back. I think they're going to be a very, very good running football team and play action pass because of that. And when he has to drop back and pass, he's a quarterback that can get it done. And with better receivers, it's going to make him better. Defensively, they're tough. They're tough as anybody in the league defensively. They're good on special teams. What's not to like about them? Good. I really respect their coaching staff and what they've done there. So you got to like Philadelphia, and one main reason you like them is because they got that first thing you have to win it all, and that's a quarterback. And anybody that second guesses that on this kid, or they want to say things that are derogatory about him or his ability. They're just there are other reasons. There's some other reasons involved as to why they're doing it. So no, he's legitimate and should be right at the front of the quarterback list.
Yeah, Coach, I feel the same way. I'm a big fan of Carson Wentz, and I have plenty of friends that are Cowboys fans that, as much as they hate to say it, they know that, listen, if he can stay healthy, this is a great quarterback, and this is a guy that can ruin their dreams. But, interesting enough, Coach, we talk about that, and you talked about the team in general. Listen, Miles Sanders, I've mentioned this guy I think is going to have a tremendous year for them, especially if they can stay healthy. Alshon Jeffrey comes back this year. We forget that, listen, they have still burners, and maybe not the burners that they used to be in Deshaun Jackson, but they drafted Jalen Reagor out of TCU, and this guy is a burner. A lot of people question Philadelphia for drafting him. Look, I did too whenever they drafted him. I was like, there's some other receivers that I think are a little bit better, but this is a guy that can open it up for him. Alshon Jeffrey is not going to burn down the field like he used to. He's a big-bodied guy. He's a possession guy. Look, they got Marquise Goodwin. I mean, this guy is the real deal. He can speed down the field. They've got a lot of speed. That's what they approach this offseason to open things up, especially when you have a talented quarterback like Carson Wentz. We know the offensive line's good. We know Zach Ertz at the tight end position, how good he is. I mean, even their backup tight end, Dallas Goedert, is a good guy. He had over 600 yards last year. This is a team that we know defensively they're going to be good enough. It's not a question about that. And the big question mark, I think, for their offense, Coach, is how do they use Jalen Hurts? I mean, is Jalen more of a Taysom Hill style guy, or is he just a backup quarterback? In my opinion, I think that, we'll see what happens with Jalen. I haven't heard a whole lot from him. But if he has allowed them to use him in that way, this team becomes even more dangerous, because this is a team in the Philadelphia Eagles that looks a lot like, and I'm not comparing apples to apples here, I understand this, but they look a lot like the potential to be like a New Orleans Saints team when you look at the running back position. And if you add Jalen Hurts in there, what the different element he can bring to the game, boy, they'd be so much fun to watch.
Listen, I did not mention Jalen Hurts. I'm glad you did, because I think he's a tremendous asset for this football team. And I think he's the type of kid that will be willing to do anything to help them win. Now, we're talking about a heck of an athlete who is a good kid and would be a good influence in their locker room and whatever. But you can do so much with him. Think about what all you can do. If he could play everything from a true running back position to a slot position to wide receiver position to all of the special team returns. He could do it all. And if you wanted to step in, let him step in and have a series or two from from maybe the shotgun type formation. He could do that, and he'd be a legitimate threat doing that. There's some packages they could put together that would make it awfully tough on other people. I think Jalen Hurts could be a real asset for him, and I think he'd be more like a Taysom Hill, maybe a Taysom Hill plus, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because you go back and look at Taysom Hill, and his ability to throw the football in college wasn't very good, and Jalen's quite the athlete. We know that. We saw, his game changed a little bit when he went to Oklahoma, and look, he's a guy that, he's a winner. He does a great job, and he's a great guy in the locker room. And, Coach, we talk about that, how important that is. And this is great for this team, because this is going to be fun to watch, because we know how good the Dallas Cowboys are going to be on offense. We knew how good the Philadelphia Eagles were on defense. And that's going to be quite the clash when you look at it. If the Eagles can stay healthy, they got a little more depth too. So if there are some injuries here, they're not as depleted like they were last year. We'll, knock on wood, we'll see what happens. But, Coach, talking about another quarterback here and a team that, look, a lot of people, of course, aren't on the Tom Brady train in Tampa Bay. My question to you, are we overhyping Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year? And, look, when we look at this, they have one of the top wide receiving cores in the NFL. It's not even close when you look at these guys and how big of weapons they are. And then you forget about guys like O.J. Howard. You forget about guys like Cameron Brate. Look, I know even the running back position, we'll see what happens, but they may get another guy in here. But a guy like Ronald Jones is great for them. Of course, they had a great draft as well, getting some offensive linemen, getting some more offensive help overall. The defense is a young defense, but they've got a really good defensive line. Coach, when I ask you this, I feel like I know what you're going to say, but I mean, are we overhyping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year?
We may be underhyping them. I'm telling you, stop and think just a minute about what you may be looking at in Tampa Bay. Now, the only real question marks to me would be, can that defense start out early and maintain a level of play? They came on, later in the year. The last 6 games, I think they played awfully well. They've got the ability, and I think now the momentum from those last 6 games to come back and play the type of defense that you'd want to play to add to a high-octane offense. And keep in mind now, Brady is going to make their defense much better. He's like a defensive player in many respects because he's going to allow them to stay on the bench and not be on the field, which is going to be a tremendous asset for him. If somebody, I guess to put it in perspective, and I'm just an old coach, but I will tell you this. If somebody said to me, you have the ability to put together an NFL team right now, and you have your pick of who you want to play right now, this year. We're not talking about 10 years from now or 5 years from now. We're talking about right now. And you could start with the quarterback position. Anybody you want, who would you want quarterbacking your football team? There's not a second's hesitation. I would take Tom Brady. Okay, so that gives you some idea of where I think they probably rank from the quarterback position. You have to have that position to beat the football team. You have to have that position wrapped up. They do. Now, to boot, for the first time in his career, he's going to have a legitimate complement of talented receivers. And I think an offensive line, which helped themselves. They got the best offensive line in the draft. And they were pretty good with up front, their offensive front. I just don't see, absent the normal problems that you could have in a season, like injuries. Absent injuries, I do not see how the Bucs won't be a major factor in the race for the Super Bowl. I really don't.
Yeah, Coach, you look at that division, it's going to be a fun division. We just talked about the Eagles and the Cowboys. But to the two teams here, when you look at the Bucs, I know they were 7-9 last year. People go, yeah, right, 7-9 at the Super Bowl or a Super Bowl contender. Look, that's what Tom Brady can bring you. Remember Jameis Winston, and listen, they had a good offense with Jameis Winston, but too many turnovers. That's what put them in bad situations, and they played some close games. So this team, very easily, you take some of those, even half of those or a third of those turnovers away, and the games could have been different. You go back to the Houston game, just to name a couple here. But look at this Tom Brady. I know a lot of people are saying he's too old, and well, you know what? I think he is got a chip on his shoulder, as he always does, but this chip's a little bit bigger this year because he's got something to prove to people, that he doesn't necessarily need the Patriots as much. He wants to win on his own, and you can't fault a guy for that. But when you look at it, listen, they drafted Keyshawn Vaughn, which is a guy I think will fit into that offense of what Bruce Arians and them are trying to do here. And remember, Tom Brady, when you look at him, a lot of people saying, well, can he fit Bruce Arians' offense? I think it's more along the lines of Tom Brady's offense, and what he's going to bring there. We know that. When you get Tom Brady, Coach, you've said it from the beginning, you get another coach. You get an extra coach on staff with you, and you get a coach that's on the field at all times. That's special. And so when you look at this team once again,
your offensive coordinator is lining up and playing every down for you. It's just amazing. And as far as him being too old and having lost his zip on the ball and all the other things that I hear from some sports commentators, I would question each and every one of those. I think there may be, if there's some diminishing talents, diminishing parts of his game, they're unnoticeable. I tell you, they're very, very small. And when he gets a good football team around him and with the possibilities that exist, I think you're going to see a totally full Tom Brady, full of his what he has in the way of potential. And it's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, it's something, Coach, when you look at it, people say, well, the stats decline. The stats don't lie. Well, sometimes stats do lie, especially when we just talked about a guy like Carson Wentz was able to throw for 4,000 yards with just about no wide receivers on his roster. Look, Aaron Rodgers last year threw for just over 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and he didn't have Devontae Adams, which we talk about just about his only true receiver out there for most of the season. So these guys are special quarterbacks, and Tom Brady's no different here. Tom Brady is a guy, once again, you cannot take his 6 rings away. This guy is the real deal. And if you want to talk about, well, you know what, you just saw, I just noticed that he's throwing the football different. Look, a lot of things are different with Tom Brady. Now, just think about this. I've said this, which I believe Phillip Rivers will have a good year. You're putting immense talent that he hasn't had necessarily around him. And for Phillip Rivers, he's back with his old coaching staff, so he's right back at home. But for Tom Brady, you're putting a guy that is, one, motivated more than anybody else in the world, that takes newspaper articles from 2003 and puts them in his locker, and it's 2019 just to get motivation there. This is a guy that I won't count out, but you're giving him 2 of the best receivers, I won't say best receivers, but top receivers in the NFL, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And then Rob Gronkowski's back, which we talked about this. He won't most likely be an every down guy. He'll be like a red zone type guy or situational guy. Not only that, you got him back. Now you've got O.J. Howard there. You've still got Cameron Brate. I mean, this team is loaded. And you look at the offensive line. They've helped themselves out, and it comes down to the defense. But, Coach, I agree with you on that with Tom Brady. Listen, this is a guy that I'm not going to count out. And, listen, I'm sorry if you're a New Orleans Saints fan. You still got a heck of a team. It's going to be a heck of a battle. But those are 2 teams that I believe will be in the playoffs and will be in the hunt for the Super Bowl, Coach.
You bet. I agree. I guess we got to go to break here, and we'll get back and talk about this a little more.
Absolutely. When we come back, we'll rank the NFL receiving corps right here. Pro Football Focus has given us a pretty good list here. We'll go through it and get some insight from Coach, and we'll talk about George Kittle. George Kittle came out this weekend and said, listen, I'm not just looking for top tight end money. I'm looking for top wide receiver money. We'll get your take on that, Coach, as we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
I thought I was too old.
I thought I was too young.
I didn't think I had what it takes.
How'd I find the time?
I went into a music store and tried some percussion. Keyboard,
guitar, ukulele.
And before I knew it,
I could actually play a song.
why make excuses when you can make music?
Just play.
This message brought to you by the NAM Foundation.
JP here. At ESPN Pensacola, we are hometown proud. Like the greatest pound-for-pound boxer of all time, Roy Jones Jr.
Three-time light heavyweight world champion and former heavyweight champion of the world, future Hall of Fame legend, Roy Jones
What up? This your boy Roy Jones Jr. and you're listening to ESPN Pensacola.
JP here. Everyone here at ESPN Pensacola wants to send a shout out to our first responders and healthcare workers at this time. We know it's tough, but we appreciate the work you put day in and day out. We also want to thank our essential workers out there for helping all of us continue to live our lives as normal as possible in this time. For our community, keep rocking it. We are going to get through this. Remember, we were named the #1 strong town in America. That wasn't by accident. We have seen so many people step up and do their part, and we thank all those people for their efforts. We will be stronger for this, and together, we will beat COVID-19.
Hey, this is Chad Brillante from the Afternoon Sports Drive, and you're listening to Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you, alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Monday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. Listen, we're talking some football with you. And look, Pro Football Focus, Coach, come out, and they're, one of the top. I love some of the stuff they put out here, and they go through a lot when they put out lists. It's not just pure opinion on things. They go a lot of stats and other things that are involved in this. But look, they're talking about the top receiving cores in the NFL. Now, no surprise here, Coach. I can't imagine it'd be a surprise to you, of course. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ranked #1 right there. Of course, they had 2 top 10 wide receivers. We just talked about them in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They also added, we didn't even mention this guy, they added one of the top wide receivers in college football last year in Tyler Johnson. And then, of course, bringing on Rob Gronkowski with the tight ends and O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate. Coach, any surprise here, any disagreement with Tampa Bay having the top wide receiving core in the NFL?
No, I could see where they could be rated #1. I think there are a couple of others as we go through this that are going to be pretty close, though, JP. So we want to. The other thing about that we should mention about the Tampa Bay receivers is you have a lot of size with that group as well. Evans is huge as a wide receiver, and certainly we know what Gronkowski and Howard can do. So even the receivers are big. So that's a very talented group, no doubt about it. But there's some others as we go through here that'll be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's an important thing to bring up, Coach, as well. When you look at it, Mike Evans is basically a basketball player at 6'5", 6'6", playing wide receiver, and he's that good. And, a guy like Chris Godwin's about 6'2", so they got good size across. And then you talk about Gronkowski and O.J. Howard and all those guys as well. Yeah, that's an interesting aspect. You talk about that with the already pure skill they have. But, Coach, #2 on the list here, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we know with Tyreek Hill, look, he has rare speed, Olympic-style speed when you look at what they've done. His 1,700 receiving yards on passes, 20 yards or more downfield since 2017, ranks tops. They also have Travis Kelce, which is just unbelievable. When you talk about Kelce, the only guy you could put in that list with him right now is George Kittle. But Kelce, what he has done, not only from a blocking aspect, but just in general from catching the football. I mean, this man is a beast. He reminds me a lot of the way Gronkowski can dominate a game for you. And look, he's a guy that he has over 155 receptions of 15 yards or more. Then you add guys like Sammy Watkins. You have young guys like Mecole Hardman, and look, now they add Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield, which I know he's a running back, but he can also be a receiver as well. Coach, the #2 right here, the Kansas City Chiefs, I could see them being anywhere from 2 to 4, wherever, depending on how you feel about them. But with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, well, those guys are the real deal.
Yeah, they are, and I think the key to that Kansas City receiving core is just absolute speed. And when they get the football, if you're not in a position to make a tackle on them, it's probably a touchdown because they just they can burn it, and they've added even more speed.
Coach, number 3 on this list here. This is a team now we're starting to get a little bit more interesting with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we know they got CeeDee Lamb, of course, in the draft. We know this is a team that already paid this offseason 5 years, $100 million to Amari Cooper. They have a guy that a lot of people forget about in all this, and Michael Gallup, who is a tremendous #2 receiver. I mean, this guy is going to be really good. He's already been really good. Look, they had a bunch of guys that were top 32 wide receivers last year already. Now they get Blake Jarwin. We'll see what happens with Blake Jarwin. He's the real deal. And I remember Blake Jarwin came out last week and said, I just want to prove to the Dallas Cowboys that I'm worth the money that they gave me. I think that's important because a lot of times we hear guys just want more money, but Blake Jarwin has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And look, this is a guy, he's pretty good. I mean, when you talk about the tight end position, all we think about is, a couple guys here. But I think with him adding Ezekiel Elliott, you already have him there as well. The offensive line, they won't be as good. They'll still be really good because Travis Frederick retired, but they did draft a guy to replace him. We'll see what happens this year. But, Coach, the Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, Mari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Blake Jarwin, and then you got Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. This is a team that will be a force to be reckoned with in that division.
Yes, they will. They've got a good receiving core. There's no doubt about it. Now, keep in mind they are young for the most part. Still have a lot to prove in the way of consistency in the National Football League, JP. So I can't put them in the same stratosphere with Tampa or Kansas City, to be honest with you. And there may be one or two other teams that may have more in the way of experience, good receivers, but also combined with experience. And there's some other teams that have really brought on, put together some very talented receivers. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, when you look at the coach number 4 here, the New Orleans Saints. Now this is a team that I think is a little underrated this year. They have they haven't made some of the moves that some of these teams have this offseason. They've been so close for so long. Unfortunate penalties and things like this, things that weren't called last year. You saw with the Vikings there. But Michael Thomas is a guy that is as good as it gets, Coach, when you look at him. I don't know how he could keep up this pace, what he's doing right now, but his 180 regular season targets were 27 more than any other wide receiver. And not only that, we see a lot of guys get targeted, but he had almost an 83% completion rate on those targets. That's insane. He was nearly 7 percentage points higher than the next wide receiver with at least 50 targets, which was Tyler Lockett. He's hands down one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. But, Coach, the Saints added another legitimate wide receiver in Emmanuel Sanders to give him some help, obviously. They still have Traquan Smith, who will be a good slot guy there. Then you have Jared Cook. We'll see what happens with Jared Cook if he stays healthy. And listen, Alvin Kamara is finally healthy. He's, was struggled back and forth last season. He had some knee issues, but it seems he's healthy and ready to go, Coach. And don't forget, when we talk about receiving cores, it's always very important whenever you break it down to who is the quarterback throwing to these guys. And these guys have none other than Drew Brees.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They have some talent, but see, like Sanders, receivers really tend to. I'm not saying this has happened to him, but they tend to go downhill quicker than maybe any other position. Maybe even faster than running backs when it comes to reaching that edge of the cliff. But running backs usually it's cumulative, knocks and pains and joint injuries and so on. Receivers, it's just lack of, they lose a step here or there, or they don't have the same hip flexion that they had before to finish out routes and move people. So I'm not sure about Sanders. I'm not sure if he's maybe one of those on his way down. And I don't think I really don't think they're one of the better receiving cores in the league. I really don't.
Yeah, well, Coach, I agree with that. I think Sanders, listen, if he has to be the number one, which in some teams he's been forced to, he is not. I think that's proven. I think with Thomas and not the competition, but the people that he draws to him, Sanders will have a good year, not a great year. Once again, I'm with you on this. I'm not sold on him. This could be a perfect fit for him, though. We'll see what happens. But nonetheless, this Saints team is pretty good. And Coach number 5 on our list, the last one we'll get to right here, the Buffalo Bills. Now, this is questionable to me because, once again, we've talked about this guy in Stephon Diggs. Now, remember, this is Pro Football Focus list on this, so don't criticize me. I'm just repeating it out. But, look, the Bills, we know they traded a ton for Stephon Diggs. This is the guy that they believe is going to take them over the top. Look, I liked last year. John Brown actually stepped up and did a great job at wide receiver for him with what they had. Cole Beasley was a great role player as well. The tight end position, a lot of people are high on Dawson Knox, and he was hit or miss sometimes. But, Coach, when you look at this, I bring this up with the Bills because I understand a lot of this goes back to the quarterback that you're throwing or you're throwing to these guys. With Stephon Diggs, though, this is a guy that I don't know if he can be a true number one. Listen, he was over there with Adam Thielen and the Vikings, and I think that's where he had a lot of success. But, Coach, how do you feel about Stephon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills being number 5 on this list?
Don't like him. I don't agree with that. Stephon Diggs, now I'm just going to give you a little inside information. Other people that I've talked to, which would include a couple of scouts and at least one coach, they helped themselves, Minnesota, drafting Jefferson out of LSU is an upgrade over Stephon Diggs. Plus the fact that you got to worry about Stephon Diggs maybe being too much of a mouth, But the most important thing is I don't think that he's the elite receiver. He's a good receiver, no doubt about it. I don't think he's the elite receiver. And then you're going to have a lot of frustration there because the quarterback that they have there is not going to be able to get him the football where he thinks he should be delivered the football. We're talking about a drastic change in the quarterback accuracy. And unfortunately, Allen is not an accurate quarterback. So the ball is not going to be put there in the position that the receivers would like to have it put if it's near altogether. So you could be looking at a real problem there instead of an asset. So I'm not real high on that group. I think there are others that are better. I'm not so sure that some of the young talent that Denver has added might not be better.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you. I think that's a great point, too. If Stephon Diggs wasn't happy with Kirk Cousins getting him the football, good luck with Josh Allen because you never know what you're going to get right there. It's like a box of chocolates, like somebody once said. But, Coach, look, we'll get to this list a little bit more tomorrow as well. We got to go to a break. When we come back, look, we're going to talk about George Kittle. Said he just doesn't want top tight end money. He wants top wide receiver money. We'll get your take on that, Coach, and some more right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
Are you craving something unusual and exciting? A new adventure? Visit the Adventure Gurus at Adventure Motorsports of Northwest Florida. From commuters and daily drivers to long-haul tourers and off-road explorers, they'll match you to the perfect ride with a proven process that gets you on the road quickly, cost-effectively, and safely. Adventure Motorsports is an authorized dealer for BMW, Indian, Ducati, Suzuki motorcycles, as well as Polaris Slingshot. Find your adventure at Adventure Motorsports of Northwest Florida. Visit AdventureMotorsportsNWF.com.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Monday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. A couple minutes here, final segment of the show. Coach, we talk about George Kittle. Now, this guy, of course, is the real deal. We know what he was for San Francisco this year. He is a guy we talk about like Travis Kelce. Look, he's set to make a little over $700,000 in 2020 on the final year of his rookie contract. He said he does not care about what the tight end market is. He's signing a George Kittle deal, and he wants to make what he's worth. Now, Coach, when you look at this, the top tight ends right now are making a little over, well, $10 million. He wants possibly wide receiver money, which could be upwards of 20. Coach, are you skeptical on signing a tight end like this in George Kittle to big time money if you're an owner or if you're a coach here?
Well, you can't go that far out of the salary range there because you're just going to invite other positions. What's to say a guard doesn't decide that he's worth what the quarterback is worth? You know, and you've broken, you've set a precedent by breaking the tight end salary range. Now, I'll tell you what they could do. Kittle is really a talented weapon. There's no doubt about it. And he does a great job. He does a good job blocking inside the tight end. But he has the ability, like Gronkowski and like just a couple of other tight ends have had, to split him out like a receiver and let him run a route on whoever's going to get out there and cover him, whether it's a corner or a safety or a linebacker, whatever. So you could come up with a formula, I think, that could maybe put him a little higher than the tight end average, but I wouldn't go too far overboard. But I could see where he may get a certain percentage over what the tight end position would get him.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, George Kittle's a guy that deserves it, Coach. We know, he deserves some good money, but we'll see as of the money he's wanting here. Regardless, though, Coach, that sound means it's time for us to go. We got a lot we didn't get to, but you know what? We'll get to it tomorrow, Coach. But it's been a pleasure.
You bet. Look forward to it, JP.
Absolutely, Coach. Appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow. And listen, we appreciate our listeners tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, with you, talking some football on Talk Football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola.
Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
ESPN Radio presents a First Take, Your Take special town hall, hosted by Stephen A. Smith.
Welcome back. Special edition, special First Take, Your Takes town hall edition, hosted by yours truly, Stephen A. Smith, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, simulcast on ESPN New. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Give us a call at 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. A lot of stuff went on today. And this morning on First Take, I had a straight talk, the definition of a straight talk as far as I'm concerned, because I had the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota on First Take with yours truly. I interviewed him one-on-one for about 4 or 5 minutes. I wanted you to hear that interview in its entirety because some of the questions that I asked, I didn't have much time with him, but some of the questions that I asked, obviously questions that I thought people were interested in knowing about and hearing from him about, since he was just appointed by the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, to oversee the death of George Floyd, the case involving the death of George Floyd. Former Representative Keith Ellison, Attorney General for the state of Minnesota, on First Take with yours truly, one-on-one, a couple of hours ago. Listen up.
With me right now is the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota, Mr. Keith Ellison. Thank you so much, sir, for being on the show. Let's get right to it. The officer